Greetings. Thank you for being here. Welcome back. If this is your first time being here, I'm Amy. Medicine woman of sorts, Sibyl. And that's what we talk about here. A lot of things, predominantly the women and matriarchs and females and sibyls and goddesses and priestesses and women of renown of the world. And other stuff. Messages from the Great Mother, the planet, such a blah, blah, blah. So, over the years, people have gifted me. Okay, so I'm wearing this. I used to live in Spokane, Washington, and where I was working, one day, another Indigenous person, but at that time, I didn't know we were Indigenous. Not only did they ask me what my background was, but they gifted me this necklace. And I remember thinking, why are you giving me an Indigenous necklace? Okay, so then I was like, let's wear it today. And then as I was putting it on, I was like, okay, this is throat chakra. I was like, wait, there's this piece here, and then there's like fringe. And then as we're looking at it, doesn't it look like, okay, so see these pieces? Don't they look like they're moving? Like vibrating? And then I started thinking about it, I was like, oh my gosh. It's another one of Mother's medicines, right? Or Mother's magics, where you could utilize the throat chakra, right? Anyways, isn't that cool? And I think these are copper, are they? I don't remember. I'll look after this and get back to that. Okay, so thanks for being here. So once again, people telling me, letting me know the truth of the history. So that is something I do want to get into, because I've done a tiny bit about going over some of the indigenous laws of the Americas, and I've been watching other videos about kind of reclaiming that name and letting go of words like African American or Negro or even mulatto, although that is one of the names listed under the reclassifications of the indigenous peoples. Also, because of the Adoption Act, so I'm mentioning this because I think there are peoples who have been adopted that have trouble finding their genealogy. So even if you connect to search angels or people who have information about our, like, say, birth records or original birth records, it doesn't always lead to information about the truth of the genealogy, okay? Because of so many different records, or sometimes no records being involved. So because of the certain laws that were made, indigenous peoples that have been adopted still fall under classification laws. It's the best way to say that. So I haven't done a lot of research on that, and it is something I want to look into, because I think it might be a good way to help someone like me and others who are having maybe some challenges getting genealogy because of adoption. And why did I mention that? Oh, because of people telling me people letting me know who I was years ago. I believed the story my adopted parents told me, and they believed the stories they've been given. And to this day, I mean, there are people in my both biological and adopted family that think I'm trying to be something I'm not, because the indoctrination of the slave story. Okay, so mostly this video is going to be finishing up motherhood and then going into a little bit about the menstrual calendar, which I have done a video about that before, and then just some other things that are in the Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets, just in case. So I will go in. I want to, anyways. I do want to do a video on the moon cycle menses, yet I don't want to usurp anything. So anyhow, before I get into that, the reason why I'm mentioning about this place of remembering who we are, stepping into a certain recognition of wanting to reclaim that knowledge, is also why I do the research that I do. Because in all of it, like even in other people kind of letting me know who I am, that has been also the teachings about the Indigenous, is like somebody else who has gotten information. And I'm not saying that it's incorrect information. It is information that is kind of already known, right? Something that's already been taught. And from my learnings about studying what is literally, even in our education system, called Black history, oh my goodness, is just pointing out some basic. I want to just bring this one up because this one really shook me when I realized it, and didn't speak on this before. But one of the most important, because the slave story is not true, and one of the movies that helped me really see that clearly was Django, and a torture scene, and I had a direct message from Great Mother, was like, this is an absolute lie, and it is meant to traumatize you, to imprint a trauma into my system that actually did not happen. This is a form of mental slavery. That is like one of the best forms. I say best forms. One of the very well working forms of mental slavery is you indoctrinate a group of people into a story that isn't their own, and you do internalize it, just like in the other video when I was talking about mommy and I are one. Subconsciously, you're still internalizing that. So if you're given a story that is the opposite of that, you're going to subconsciously internalize it. Your nervous system is going to respond to that. And so when it comes to the story, I want to make one thing blatantly obvious to consider. When you, as a human being, cannot move for a long period of time, your muscles begin to atrophy, meaning they shrink and they stop working. And you'll hear these stories, especially in hospitals, where they go and they massage people who have been in basically bedridden for long, not unable to move out of their bed or move at all. They go and massage them so that their muscles will stay working, especially if the person is unconscious. So say they come back to consciousness, they wouldn't be able to move their muscles if there wasn't some outside stimulation. And that's what massage does. It brings outside stimulation to the muscles Just a side note, so that you know that as a person who does move around, it's very good for you. Okay. So, if you were on a ship for even a week straight without moving, you're going to have some trouble moving. And then you want to tell us 3 months with no food and, oh my gosh, just the horrible conditions, which I totally internalized. I even created a whole scenario that may or may not have happened in my remembrance, but this is like handed down to me, this memory of, or this illusion of chains from another country, when, if that were true, none of those people would be able to move once they land. Say they get here and they're like, okay, let's get everyone off the ship so that we can then sell them, which is the story that we're told. Like, we're off these ships and then we're immediately sold. Maybe like rinsed off, supposedly, and then sold. No. No one would be standing. No one would be able to actually move. And so the people who were supposedly taking these humans as cargo, so to speak, it would be a waste. There would be no point in doing that, because it would take at least a month to revitalize find people who would come and massage and do physical therapy with these so-called, cargo beings. It would take them months to recuperate. Months. How did I not put that together before? It's just... So that's one. And I've shared this before, and I shared it with people who know me in my personal life. But when I went to South Africa, the land there told me I'm not from there. Your people are... This is what the land said. Your people are not from here. And I was like, what? What do you mean? No. I must be wrong. I must have misheard the planet, when it's never been wrong to me. You've never misspoken to me before or after. But because of the indoctrination, I just didn't want to. I don't want to hear it. Okay, so I mentioned all of that because that also ventures into beyond what I'm sharing, especially out of like the books of myths and secrets, and about the known goddesses, like the popular goddesses. Because if everything comes from the mother and everything starts from matriarchal existences, which we'll go into a little bit more on when we finish out the chapter of motherhood, is the recognition that so many stories have been mistold. And if you're going to mistell the story, you have to make sure that you leave out the great mothers, because we'll continuously, convincingly believe these other stories. Like the stories of the slave ships carrying cargo of people on the bottom of the ships. I cannot believe it. And it's been years since I've known that that's not true. And I didn't put that one together. And I think I was listening to someone else and they were like, hey, the people wouldn't be able to move. And I was like, oh my gosh, they are so right. Like, how did I not put that together? Okay, so thanks for listening to that. Share. Not vitally important, but important because at this point, as much as I would like to be included into an Aboriginal tribe of our peoples, if it is not totally and completely matriarchal, then is it actually a representation of the peoples? Would it be what about creating like grandmother, like a great mothers tribe? You know, the refound great mothers tribes, clans, because a lot of the teachings from what I've experienced, me personally, and this might be, maybe I'm, let me know. It's the truth of the matter. From what I've read and from what I'm learning, most of the teachings are patriarchal and change the positions or even the authority of the matriarch and the great mothers. And today, even with what we call feminism, or great mothers and sea stars and Sibyls remembering who they are, can bring a patriarchal influence. I've definitely had it where it's kind of like my way. It's got to be my way. Which is very patriarchal. That's not egalitarian, That's not what Mother told me it should look like, right? And so, yeah, is it possible? Is it possible to find or create an egalitarian, matriarchal clan, tribe, modern day one that is about like teaching magics, teaching medicine, and embracing some of what I'm about to read and finishing this last chapter. So, side note, you know how I started the chapter, not side note, but moving on. Okay. I had started reading the Motherhood chapter because I was looking for the reference to males coming from a different creation, and it doesn't specify. I kept reading and it actually progresses to more modern kind of modern herstories and modern evidence, so to speak. So I didn't actually find specific in this chapter anyways. Specific. I mean, there's tons of information talking about how motherhood is viewed in comparison to fatherhood. Yet, specifically saying like the tantric belief, I didn't find it in here. Okay, I apologize. But it was a good read, so I'm glad I read it, and I'm glad I'm reading it. So, just saying, that part wasn't in here. I couldn't find it. All right, so picking up where I left off, and where I left off in my last video was kind of like ending it with worshippers of the Great Mother celebrated rites of love. Okay, so now we're moving on, and where I picked up is primitive mother gave comfort and reassurance. Alaskan and Siberian shamans, they have a word in here, but that's not the correct word, so I'm not going to use that. But Alaskan, Canadian, and Siberian shamans still call her the soul of the universe, never seen, but her voice can be heard. A gentle voice, like a woman, a voice so fine and gentle that even children cannot become afraid. What it says is, be not afraid of the universe. Montague says the mother image is still used to alleviate terror. When the male's, end quote, when the male's defenses are down, when he is in extremis, when he is dying, his last, like his first word, is likely to be mother, in a resurgence of his feeling for the mother he has never reputed, repudiated, but from whom he has been forced at the overt level to disengage himself, end quote. Eugene O'Neill expressed the secret longing in a dramatic speech. Here's the speech. The mistake began when God was created in a male image. That makes life so perverted and death so unnatural. We should have imagined life as created in the birth pain of God the Mother. Then we would understand why we, her children, have inherited pain, for we would not know that our life's rhythms beats from her great heart, torn with the agony of love and birth, and we would feel that death meant reunion with her, a passing back into her substance, blood of her blood again, piece of her piece. Now, wouldn't that be more logical and satisfying than having a God, a male, whose chest thunders with egotism and is too hard for tired heads and thoroughly comfortless? Question mark. End quote. The Kagaba Indians express the same sentiments in a less sophisticated but equally forceful song, describing their goddess. The mother of songs, the mother of the whole seed, bore us in the beginning. She is the mother of all races of men and the mother of all tribes. She is the mother of thunder, the mother of the rivers, the mother of trees, and of all kinds of things. She is the mother of songs and dances. She is the mother of the older brother stones. She is the mother of the grain and the mother of all things. Including the kitty cat. Hold on. She is the mother of the dance paraphernalia and of all temples, and the only mother we have. She is the mother of the animals, the only one, and the mother of the Milky Way. It was the mother herself who began to baptize. She gave us the limestone Kokadish. She is the mother of the rain, the only one we have. She alone is the mother of things, she alone. And the mother has left a memory in all the temples. With her sons, the saviors, she left songs and dances as a reminder. I don't know about the saviors part, but okay. Oh, do I have that in here? I think it is. I'll have to go grab it. Okay. Psychologists often regard the universal myth of the Golden Age as a symbol of childhood. Yet when Plato wrote of the Golden Age, he apparently took some details from matriarchal societies, familiar to the Greeks as either contemporary or belonging to the recent past. He said there was no wildness, nor eating of each other, nor any war, nor revolt against them. There were no governments, nor separate possessions of women and children, for all men rose again from the earth, remembering nothing of their past, and such things as private property and families did not exist. This was regarded as a fragment of Plato's imagination until recent research discovered the pre-urban community of the Neolithic cultivator. There was no ruling class to exploit the villages, no compulsion to work for a surplus. The local community was not allowed to consume, no taste for idle luxury, no jealous claim to private property, no exorbitant desire for power, no institutional war. Though scholars have long contemptuously dismissed the myth of the Golden Age, it is their scholarship rather than the myth that must be now questioned. Such a society had indeed come into existence at the end of the last ice age, if not before, when the long process of domestication had come to a head in the establishment of small, stable communities with an abundant and varied food supply, communities whose capacity to produce a surplus of storage grain, have security and adequate nurture to the young. The rise in vitality was enhanced by vivid biological insight. Okay, so at Çatalhöyük in what is now southern Turkey, a matriarchal community of the 7th millennial BC, there was no evidence of chieftainship or rivalry, though there were many priestesses. Children were buried in the tombs of their mothers. Art and handicrafts flourished, producing obsidian mirrors, copper and lead jewelry. Oh, I looked at this, by the way, and I think it's either silver or it's stainless steel. It's probably stainless steel since she meowed after that one. Okay. Copper, obsidian, jewelry, and tools, woolen textiles, artistically carved wooden vessels. For 1,500 years, 7 times as long as the existence of the United States of America, as far as formerly known as, the community seemed free from massacre or war. Though many hundreds of skeletons have been found, none showed any sign of violent death. I feel like I've shared this in other videos, just messages from the Great Mother showing what our societies look like before males existed. That's what she showed me. She showed me worlds upon this realm where there were no males for many, 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 many years, like a few 100,000 years. It was just melanated mothers and daughters. And that there was no war. There was no... So when I hear stories of certain groups doing sacrifices, she showed me that that's not true. Certain groups did not do that. Though we have been told that they did, but they did not. Because under a matriarchal society, there's no way that would happen. Just absolutely no way. And so when did we merge into the virgin sacrifices? How do these not bring us to question what is going on here? Because no, we didn't do that. And things had so much more, the best way to describe it is relaxation. Life was relaxed. Stress was literally something was chasing you. There was a storm coming, right? Natural stress, not artificial stress. So it's still stress, it doesn't mean it's not real, but artificial stress is like a computer, looking at a computer all day, right? You're doing work, but you're in one spot and you're focused on one thing, and it is not the same stimulation as if you were outside, say, walking to where there's this really cool obsidian stones, right? Or somewhere where there might be copper or gold or silver for us to mold or shape into some type of artistic form. It was natural life going stresses, so to speak. Almost healthy stresses. If there is such a word. Like, no, maybe I'm making that up. Stress in itself is not healthy, but healthy, well, actually, certain stress is healthy. It is possible, right? Like when you're lifting weights, that's creating stress, and it can be healthy. Or cardiac work where you're running, you're creating some stress on your body, but it can become beneficial because it's a form of movement. And so if we were doing that in a way that was more natural, we wouldn't have what is now called like the mental load stress, because we wouldn't have to be thinking about all the things that need to be done at the house, because we would have a community of other people who are already taking care of all that stuff. It was already there. It already happened. So I also feel like that's also part of patriarchy, is to employ us, literally, like put us to work in a way that is counter natural. All right. Thanks for listening to that. Okay. Matriarchal Sumeria dominated the Fertile Crescent for 3,000 years. And it's called the Fertile Crescent. Okay? For 3,000 years, with virtually no evidence of warfare. Neolithic foundations of such peaceful societies had been unearthed in Hassuna, Tel Halaf, Samaria, and Ubaid, where there were no gods. Holy icons shown only naked. Holy icons showed only unclothed women holding or nursing infants. Patriarchal religions gradually ousted the ancient matriarchs, chiefly by violence, but some scholars have suggested that this revolution was neither satisfactory nor final. The Great Mother okay, these are college words. Just kidding. Great Mother ostensibly overthrown by her sons. Oh, and I looked that word, ostensively? I want to look it up. Okay. So ostensibly is another word for apparently or purportedly, meaning like maybe but not for sure. It's a rhetoric word. Okay, anyways. To start over. The Great Mother, ostensibly overthrown by her sons, is an eradicable... Goodness sakes, I should have pre-read this sentence before videoing. Okay. Great Mother, ostensibly overthrown by her sons, is an ineradicable archetype dwelling somewhere in the psyche of every human being born of a woman, which means, of course, every human being. And just to simplify that sentence means that even though Great Mother was kind of like said to be overthrown by her sons, you cannot remove the true archetype of the Great Mother. It is in the psyche of all humans. Ancient myths were not merely allegorizing when they spoke of the furious wrath of a neglected deity. So maybe this is where the original saying of like, hell is actually the name of a goddess. So that statement like, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. But there's more after it, just like the other like blood is thicker than water statement. There's like more to it. Okay, I digress. All right. So even scholars refrain from noticing the everyday words of ancestry that clearly indicated matrilineal descent. Forebears, for example, a short form of forebearers, ancestry is called extraction, an obvious reference to what one came out of. Similarly, descent, like I am descended from or descending from the womb. From the beginning, it was maternal spirit that fostered cooperation, togetherness in work or worship. The matrilineal totemic clan was by far the most successful form that human association has assumed. It may indeed be said that it has been the only successful one. Political organizations, religious theocracies, states, nations have endeavored in vain to achieve real and complete social solidarity. They are artificial structures. Social humanity has never succeeded in adequately replacing the primitive bond to which it owes its existence, which is to the mothers, to women, to the great mothers. Medieval ballads depict a pagan world where mothers were the ultimate authority in every household. So again, the word pagan, you see how I now realize pagan just means basically pre-Christian. Because in India, they worship many gods. People don't. Do people call them pagans? Maybe. Anyhow. Okay. So, thanks for listening to my sidebar things that I said. Okay? I appreciate it. Sons appealed to mothers, not fathers, in times of crisis, as the ballad hero Johnny Cock asked the help of his mother and through her of the goddess. Christianity, however, was devoted to the destruction of the goddess and her temples. Acts 19:27. So, I don't know if I've read Acts, but I'm going to go grab my Bible real quick so that I can refer some of these. But if you've watched any of my older videos where I went into decoding some of the Bible, I talked about how Acts, because we would have done things in alphabetical order, Acts would have been first. So Acts either depicted what was done to the great mothers or what the great mothers were capable of, because I think in Acts it talks about I think in Acts is where it is supposed that the Messiah cured blindness. Was supposed to be like one of the proofs of the Messiah being who they were supposed to be. But actuality, it would have been things that great mothers did. And some of that I got from Mama Zogbe, but also just from kind of looking at the Bible. But anyways, we'll go grab that real quick just so we have a reference. Some of you may know it by heart already. At one point I said I was ready to start decoding it. But it's been a long while. It's super dusty. Oops. I feel like there's so much, but maybe one day again. Maybe one day again. I mean, look at all there's so much writing in this book. So it's got to be, where's the other book? It's got to be, from us. There's so much. I mean, I'm just saying, one's all about anyhow, and this is just what she was able to kind of like manifest into this book, because I'm sure I'm learning more missing secrets from reading about the Indigenous great mothers and creator Primordial creator beings. Okay, so Acts, which part? I'm gonna write this out real quick. Interesting, because I did keep doing my own decoding. I just haven't done any videos. So I did decode 1927. Let's see what I discovered or uncovered. Okay, so here it is. The riot in Ephesus. Okay, so it talks about the riot in Ephesus leads to Acts 19:27, and it's about that time that these arose a great disturbance about the way. A silversmith named Demetrius, who made silver shrines of Artemis, brought in no little business for the craftsmen. He called them together along. Okay, that was Acts 19:23, and a silversmith was Acts 24, and then here I am at Acts 25. He called them together along with the workmen in related trades and says, "Men, you know we receive a good income from this business," Acts 26. "And you see and hear how this fellow Paul has convinced and led astray large number of people here in Ephesus and in practically the whole province of Asia." Oh, there's so much decoded in just that. Okay. He says that man-made gods are no gods at all. Acts 27. Here we are. We're here. There is danger not only that our trade will lose its good name, but also that the temple of the great goddess Artemis will be discredited, and the goddess herself, who is worshipped throughout the province of Asia and the world, will be robbed of her divine majesty. Yeah, I have a big star next to this, and it's all underlined. So, yeah, from what I remember in decoding this, that there's, maybe I did do a video on this. Yeah, because it goes on Acts 35 and 36, Artemis and her image, which fell from heaven. It says something around her image falling from heaven. Okay, but it's just an example of how we didn't want, it's even in here, like how important the goddess is. But of course it's in Acts so that it can throw off a whole different importance to the deity we created, that was created. Because this continues in this book, it continues past that. Clement of Alexandria quoted Christ, and this part, like, I'm not even going to quote it, because though I do not practice the religion that says, that uses Jesus Christ as its example, the being who may have possibly been, who is now called Jesus, Yeshua, or Yeshua ben Hur, or Eshu, would never talk about women this way, or his mother. Never. No. Did not happen. So I'm not even going to say what he says, but it's pretty horrible and disrespectful, right? there are whole diatribes written against motherhood in that book, in the book, the Sibyl, the renamed Sibyl. Okay, moving on. Many male scholars still try to pretend there never was a goddess, or if there was, she was only a cult figure vaguely associated with sexual promiscuity and or fertility. It is not recognized that religious feeling for the mothers was, if anything, much deeper and more passionate than that of feelings of the divine patriarch. Deities of both genders are styled gods. Egyptian sacred art showing divine persons with obvious breasts described as a picture of gods. This is Anubis. There are literal pictures of Anubis with a bosom, especially the very famous one with the sarcophagus and the females at either end of the table. Yeah, that's Anput. That's anyhow. Okay. And then scholars carefully avoid quoting ancient texts that say that the primordial being was a creatrix, not a creator. Though she was the central unifying concept of ancient civilizations, the Great Mother isn't mentioned in ancient history texts. Scholars' violent denial of the evidence of the prehistoric matriarchal cultures causes one to suspect that their prejudices often blind their eyes, as if patriarchal culture prevents its members from comprehending any foreign viewpoint. And I had gotten a message from Great Mother saying that a lot of the ancient texts, ancient information can only be deciphered by women, mothers, great daughters. The sounds, the coding, even some of the language is only understood by the minds and the vibrations of the Great Mothers, of females. Men can try to decipher it all they want to. They're not going to understand it. That's what Great Mother said. So this is kind of backing that. Wow, my video is going long. That's because I'm doing a lot of talking. We're almost finished. Okay. And then it goes into Freud's ignorance, which we don't have to read this part, but it's basically saying how he kept sexualizing the Great Mother rather than seeing her as a mother figure. He kind of interpreted his own, and this is what happens. He took his own understanding and decided that it was and then went on to back it with his own quote unquote research, but it was based on his kind of perception that the Great Mother was either kind of sexualized, or I should say smexualized, or somewhat almost put into like a trauma situation. Like he didn't put together the part where she could be life transmuting and nurturing and sympathy and her responsiveness. He didn't see that as love. He saw it as like her needing maleness in her life rather than this was just who she was, and how to interpret that, because he interpreted it from like his perspective, a male perspective. So that's kind of what that part goes into. And then Gilder, who is another philosopher, theorizes that few men can attain psychological maturity at all without a vital connection with the sense of fertility through intimate association with a woman. She has a part of her very smexuality, a sense of the future, a sense of evolution and growth, a notion of a differing pleasures for future gains, a sense of the phases and seasons of life, a devotion to the value of the individual human being. And this is regardless if she gives birth. Like, the great mothers were still mothers of creations. Didn't necessarily have to be an actual human being. So creating art, creating medicine, those are producers. And then, as it said in the beginning, people were afraid of women in general because of their connection to the planet, their natural connection to the planet. Okay, so you didn't have to be an actual mother to be seen as a mother of all things. Okay, and then I think this is for the most part because we understand they also generally in matriarchal societies they are generally free of the anxiety, guilt, and sense of sin imposed by patriarchal religions. Okay, so we see over and over and over and over how important the Great Mother is and how others had always recognized who she was. And then there's a quote here from Buddha. They're saying that even Buddha reached back to the basic maternal imagery in his discourse on universal love as a mother, even at the risk of her own life, protects and loves her child, her only child. So let a man cultivate love without measure towards the whole world above, below, and around, unstinted, unmixed with any feeling of differing or opposing interests. This state of mind is best in the world, but no man could achieve it without motherhood as a model. And I think Buddha was a woman. Again, I've seen pictures of Buddha with a chest, and then everyone's saying that that's a man. I just don't believe it. I think Buddha was a brown woman, a highly melanated brown woman. That's what I think. I think most of the deities I think Krishna was female. I think Shiva, because there's two depictions of Shiva. I think Shiva, or is it Shiva or Vishnu? Shiva and Vishnu. I'm going to stop right there. I think most ancient deities, even though they have been given, like this one says, male identities, I do not think so. Thoth, I think if Thoth existed, was female. I just watched a video, that guy that does the cool videos about India. I've shared some of his videos on my channel. A depiction of what looks like Ganesha as female, as a woman, or as a female, well, I guess you would say half woman, a woman with an elephant head, a goddess. When I first learned about Ganesha, she was female. It was later, and that was in like I was in like the 1900s. That was in like 90s, in the 90s, I think, where I learned about, the late 80s, early 90s, I learned about Ganesha. Is it? No. Late 90s, early 2000s, I learned about Ganesha. And what I had read was Ganesha's mother is the one who gave him the elephant head. And so I had to, when I read that, I had read that she, to save his life, gave him her head. So wouldn't she had been the first elephant goddess? And then if Thoth becomes Ganesha, because Jehuti, Thoth becomes Jehuti, and Jehuti becomes Ganesha through time and, language and all that fun stuff. Thoth is not, even in his writings, it says, I am not a man. And so people are like, oh, he's a god. No, he's a woman. He's not a... Yeah, he's a god. Woman. He's a goddess. He's a Zemi, technically. Like, beyond the colonialized words of what we call gods. Gods and goddesses. Okay. So, that was the end of motherhood. And what else did I want to talk about real quick? I can't remember. Something in here reminded me. Oh, I was just talking. Who else do I also think is female? Well, I think God in general is a woman, is female. And then Ganesha, Buddha, Krishna. I think Shiva is depicted as male. But I think Shiva is both male and female, actually. Which I will accept that. Because even in some of the African pantheons, some of the South American pantheons, some of the American indigenous pantheons, the deities do. They're female first and then they change gender. That, yeah, I can agree with that. I think that's highly possible. I don't think it's the other way around. I think you must be female form to change into a male form. I don't think it's the opposite. Personally, that's how I feel. That's my personal feelings and opinion and some of my theory. Okay, so I wanted to go into mountains because that just kind of follows with motherhood, because mountains are also highly reflective of the great goddess, and there are many cultures who feel like mountains represent the great mother. And we talked about the Kalalech. I was saying Kalalia, but that's not right. Kalalech of the Irish. She's the one-eyed, very dark, complected goddess that has brought both fear and peace. Has been known. She was known as the goddess of boulders and mountains, right? So along those lines, this will be in the next reading. I am going to go in, like I said, into the menstrual moon, but I'm going to wait until after tomorrow's video, and I will post a link to, it's not my video, but Mama Tia and Cassandra are doing a podcast video together tomorrow afternoon, so I'll post that in my community as well, just so you know what time if you want to tune in. But I'm going to wait for that before I go into anything about the menstrual, but if that's what they want to talk about, it's not like, just because. Just because. Anyhow, before I go and proceeding on to the next thing that we'll be going into out of this book, because there's other things. I still need to finish my Indigenous peoples. And oh my goodness, do I need to do a moon video, because all of this just reminds me of the connection to the moon and how disconnected. That's the other thing. When I was talking about who I think were female deities, the other thing is we worship the moon. We did not worship the sun. Sorry, we paid attention to this planet, to the moon, and then to the planets, the other 9 planets. Side note, Pleiades, there are actually 9. There's a whole story about the 9 sisters. Look it up. And because we keep reverting back to 7. 7 is patriarchal. If we really want to start stepping out of patriarchy and stepping into the true magics of the matriarchs, remember, there's 2 more numbers. We go up to 9. 9. 9, 9, 9 it represents everything. And if you go into Eastern medicine and some of their religions, it all goes back to 9. And I will mention again that even in Catholicism, when you're doing the rosary, it's usually 108 times, which what equals 9. And in the Buddhist religion, they will also do 108. 9. So when it comes to certain numbers, when it ends at 7, ask yourself, does it end at 7? Or is this a colonialized patriarchal system removing the connection to the mother, which is 9? So anyways, before I go, I want to just tell you this. Chomo Lung Ma. Chomo Lung Ma, Goddess Mother of the Universe, is the world's highest mountain, known in the West typically by the name of a man, Mount Everest. So we'll go into, I'll continue this chapter. I'll just make a note of where I left off. If I don't get to go into great detail, but we'll do both because mountain, guess what? It says sea menstrual blood. So I feel like they can both kind of go together depending on where things go in the next day or two, right? Oh yeah, and today is the 13th. Oh, I just wanted to touch in on the energy of the 13th. Okay, so we're in February. We're in the Gregorian calendar of February. This is just like side note stuff because I need to end this video and I'm having trouble doing that. So I'm just going to talk about this real quick. So, okay, we're in February. So we're still in what is considered brightens or breeds timing. February was originally had a different name. Oh my gosh. But it's connected to a goddess. And these days, I think from the 11th to the 16th are all around the goddess. There's some celebrations going on, like either in Europe. And then I even think there is a link to either New Year's or Easter. All right, now I'm just messing stuff up. Just focus on the 13. Another thing. So we talk about 9, also 13, because we would have, if things go back to the mother and measurements and time is one of the measurements that came with mother, and part of that measurement came with her moon cycles. And there are 13. Isn't that interesting? There are 13 moon cycles within the moon's 18.6 year cycle. And if you were to change that 18.6, we'll talk about our hours of the days. We do a whole nother video on this again. But mothers understood the power of 9. 3, 6, and 9. That's why we have 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. Anyhow, just to revisit to the number 13 and its mother moon connection. I wonder if that's what not Friday the 13th, but Valentine's Day. I'm gonna do a little research on that too. All right, that was a nice long video. Thank you for listening to all that, and look forward to seeing you on the next video. I'll do a little music before we go. Little sound bowls. All right, until next time, take care.